Hey guys, welcome to reading. Today, our learning goal is to find the author's purpose in a text that we are reading. Now, the definition of author's purpose is the why behind the writing. So, any author, even yourselves as little authors, when we're doing writing, you always have a purpose for your writing. You always have an idea behind it, something that you want readers to get from your writing. And we can find author's purpose in any text that we pick up and read, sometimes more than one. To be successful today, we are going to be able to identify the author's purpose in a text, and if we're in grade 3 or 4, to be able to identify multiple purposes in a text. So that means more than one, that an author might have more than one reason for writing their text for us. Now, for the purpose of our session today, we are going to focus on the acronym of PIE. And this is an acronym that really helps me as a reader to remember the different authors' purposes that I can choose from when I'm trying to figure out why an author wrote their text. So the acronym PIE stands for P, persuade, I, inform, and E, entertain. And just to expand on that vocabulary a little bit further, persuade means you're trying to get someone to agree with you or call them into action or go with their opinion. To inform means to give us some form of information. They're trying to inform us and teach us something. And to entertain means that they're trying to, we're trying to get us to have fun and really enjoy what it is that we're reading. As we become better readers, we can remember this acronym with two extra purposes. So we can remember the acronym of PIDE. This is with an extra ED on the end, which stands for to explain and describe. And this is how we can challenge ourselves a little bit further as we become more competent readers. But for today's purpose, we're just going to focus in on that acronym of PIE, and you're going to help me identify the author's purpose in this text that I've chosen for us to have a look at today. We're not going to look at the entire text. I've chosen a specific section, but before we do that, let's have a quick look at the text features on the front cover and figure out if this text is fiction or non-fiction, because that's going to be a really big help for us when we get to identifying the author's purpose. So here's the front cover. The title is Horrible Geography, Violent Volcanoes by Anita Granieri. I can see some drawn illustrations on this front cover, some cartoon-like illustrations with some talking bubbles here. It says, what a blast! I know this I know this series of books, The Horrible Geography and The Horrible Histories. I've read these before, seen these before, and I know that they have real facts inside of them. I'm going to do a quick flick and see if I can find any other text features that might help. Having a flick through the text, I was able to find some diagrams, so some pictures that were labelled with different parts, and I was also able to find some tables with information, organising the data or information in the tables here. So I'm pretty confident that this text is a non-fiction text now. So the section we're going to focus on today is titled The Volcano That Grew in a Field. And I'm just going to hold this up to the screen so you guys can see it nice and clearly, what this text looks like. My initial thoughts is that this text the purpose is to entertain us. I think that because I can see lots of illustrations here, lots of silly pictures of like horses with funny facial expressions, and I've got talking bubbles here with sounds and things. And I know from previous texts that I've read, when I read comic strips, which is how it's set out, the author is trying to entertain me. They just want me to have fun and to follow along a story. So my initial thoughts is that it is just to entertain me, and hopefully I can find some more evidence to support that. But because this is in a non-fiction text, or what I think is a non-fiction text without having read the entire text yet, there might be multiple purposes. So I might have to look out for other authors' purposes in this text as well. And we're going to have a read and see if we can find anything else. The volcano that grew in a field. On the morning of 20th of February 1943, farmer Dionisio Pulido plows his field of corn in the village of Paruquitan, Mexico. I know that Mexico is a real place. It sounds like this farmer could be a real person because they're giving us specific dates, full names, and even the place and that it's happening in. Suddenly, the earth starts to shake and a long crack opens up. The farmer hears a noise like thunder and the ground feels warm beneath his feet. All around the crack, the ground starts to rise and swell. Out of the opening pours a hissing cloud. Ah! A hissing cloud of smoke, fire, ash, and gas. So far, it sounds like a bit of a story to me. So it sounds like the author is telling us a story to entertain us, and we've got the funny pictures to go along with it. But I'm also hearing some real facts and real information in here, which makes me think that perhaps there's more than one purpose. Perhaps the author is trying to entertain us with a story, but they're also trying to inform us. Let's read on and see if there's any more evidence for that. Evidence that it may also be to inform us. The terrified farmer leaps on his horse and gallops for cover. Faster! That evening, the crack has grown into a large hole. Red-hot rocks, ash, and cinders shoot into the air. Flashes of lightning streak across the sky. Every few seconds, the ground shakes. So I'm hearing some really specific vocabulary here. That of cinders, fire, ash, and gas. These are classified as tier 3 pieces of vocabulary, which means they're really specific to the topic of volcanoes. So I think the author has included those to inform us about volcanoes and to teach us a little bit about volcanoes. The next day, overnight the volcano erupts non-stop and its cone grows 50 meters high and it's still growing hour by hour. The cone now stands at 150 meters high. It erupts violently, shooting balls of fire high into the sky. Farmer Dionisio packs his bags as lava destroys his village. Towards the end there, I heard a couple of more pieces of vocabulary about the cone. That makes me think that the author's trying to inform me. And the fact that they've included exact measurements of 50 meters high and then eventually to 150 meters high, this makes me think this is a real volcano. This isn't a make-believe story about this farmer. This actually happened, but the author's chosen to tell this story in a fun way, like a narrative, like a make-believe story. They've tried to keep me entertained by telling it in a story with a beginning, middle, and end, and to have pictures and things to accompany it. But really, the author is informing me about this true volcano that grew in the middle of a field for this farmer on the 20th of February in 1943. These are all true facts. So as we read a text, we should be constantly gathering evidence and thinking about the why behind this author's writing, their purpose. Why did they write this text? We should be thinking about it as we go. And then we need to be able to share this thinking with our teachers and our peers. And this document here I've put together to show you some expected responses to describing the author's purpose of any given text. So on this page, I have the example of our text that we read. And then I have 5 different levels of thinking that you could include when you're trying to talk about the author's purpose yourself. So I would like you guys to think about the stars maybe as like your grade level almost, and I would like you to think about where is a good fit for you, where should you be aiming to work towards. Now I know that we have grade 2s to 4s in our cohort, so I'm going to focus on those areas with you guys here today to give you a really good example of what we expect from you. And you can come back to this worked example at any time to see if your response, is on par with this, or if you need to add something more, or if yours isn't quite at a grade 3 or a grade 4 level. So at a bit of an entry point, I would expect you to be able to write a response like this to discuss the author's purpose. So the author's purpose in Violent Volcanoes is to entertain us. It tells us a story including the who, what, when, and where. It looks like a comic strip and it has funny pictures and speech bubbles. It's really important that as we're moving through the school and we've only got people in grades 2 to 4 in our cohort, that we're not just saying that the author's purpose is to entertain us, but we are gathering that evidence as well. You can see beside these stars that you are able to identify the purpose using pi with evidence from the text. You need to tell us why you think that. As you get up to grade 4, we expect more from you. We expect you to be able to identify more than one purpose in the text. And this little +1 over here is for anybody who thinks they can take on a challenge today to find a theme. So from our grade 3s and 4s, we would expect you to be working towards this sort of response here, and I'll read it out loud for you. Violent Volcanoes, the volcano that grew in a field, is a non-fiction narrative. It tells real facts like the farmer's name, the date, and the date the event happened, and where the event happened to inform us. The author also indicates tier 3 words like cinders, ash, and comb to inform us. But it tells these facts as a story to entertain us. The author has used a comic strip with funny pictures and speech bubbles and tells the story in a narrative format with a beginning, middle, and end. I'm really excited to see how you guys go using this worked example that I've put together for you. Choose the STAR system that you're going to aim towards and work towards that, and come back and check that you've been able to include everything that I included in my response when I'm identifying the author's purpose. Best of luck, guys. I cannot wait to read your responses and see how you've gone identifying the purpose in the text today.